So I was listening to a teacher give a talk, and you know, when you're talking about things like attention, concentration, sensory clarity, loving kindness, equanimity, awareness, attention, like these are all a little slippery, right? Some more than others, like consciousness, awareness, attention, concentration, like parsing these things, these faculties is more a function of having a schematic or a way to slice that pie that makes sense. And I always say it, and because it's really significant to me, you know, every single person within the sound of my voice is engaging with this 2,600-year game of telephone between the Buddha and you. And every single teacher and student that came in between. And so many vast gulfs of time and space, and none of them are empty. Like the way the Buddha Dharma has been transmitted through the world, you know, I mean, I just can't even, you know, India, Burma, Laos, Cambodia, Tibet, Japan, Vietnam, China, Japan, Korea, Bhutan, Nepal. I mean, it's amazing. And America, Australia, Europe, etc. So, these vast gulfs of time and space are full of humans who have reckoned with these ideas. And this isn't just a Buddhist thing, of course. This is like the great conversation about what it means to be human, what it means to be alive, and what counts as a flourishing life. So I just I feel like it's really helpful to remember that anytime a teacher brings out a whiteboard or opens their mouth, they're not saying, this is how it is, or maybe they shouldn't be saying that. I think it might be more helpful to remember that they might be saying, this is one way to think about it. This is one way to hold this in your mind and practice with it. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. Nothing I ever say to you is something to be believed. Anything I say to you is something that I'm offering to you that's really revealing more about my own process than about you. It's just wherever I happen to be at that moment. So something to turn over and look at and either be or like, huh, that's interesting, etc. So this teacher was comparing, they were basically taking all the various practices and ways of thinking about meditation practice in the 2,600-ish year history of Buddhism, and they're dividing them up into two camps, two methods, the control method and the release method. And I thought that was brilliant. I love that. I love it when people get real simple, because I'm a simple person, like small words, short sentences. I'm like, yes, I can get my head around that. So tonight we'll be going over the control method. And this is control is less a specific method and more an orientation to practice. Like it's a way of looking at and practicing with our attention, our concentration, these normal human faculties we all have. And then next week we'll talk about release. But even just as we're sitting here, is there anybody in this room who has an idea, maybe name a practice, if anybody has an idea of a practice that you know or that you've heard me talk about or someone talk about that might go in the control method camp?
Silva mind control.
Silva mind control, not familiar with it. I've seen the ads.
It's all about control.
Okay, mind control, great. It's in the name, thank you. Okay, anybody else?
The counting of the breath and coming back to the breath. You were controlling yourself to do that.
All right, counting of the breath. Yeah, that's a control method. That's a control approach. Does anybody have any ideas what a release method might be? Be brave.
Do nothing.
Do nothing.
That was
Yeah. And in that same camp, Talopas, that could be considered a release method. Don't imagine. It's even what is that? The fifth nail. Don't control. Just rest. Okay. So you guys are already pros at this kind of stuff. But I was thinking about it and I was like, it might be nice to just go over the kind of foundations, like the guts of the control method and why it works and how it works, and then do like a breath counting. That's what I have prepared tonight. All right. So it's that dongle. I'm gonna, what am I gonna do? I don't want it to make that noise again, but if it makes that noise again, I'll do a thing and unplug my phone. So I actually made notes in here and on there. All right. Number 1, strategy. The strategy of the control method is to develop our natural faculty of attention / concentration by using our natural tendency to grasp and cognitively fuse with what we see as desirable. When we see something that we like or want or think is good or desirable or pleasurable, our minds and hearts naturally leap at it. I mean, even just, I'm walking by the coffee shop by my work and I see, somebody getting this delicious looking latte with a little leaf, put in in the foam. And my motor neurons are already figuring out how close I am to that cup. And could I take that guy out of the knees and take his latte before he knows what hit him and then run to the back of my work? And this is like a thing that neuroscientists have actually seen, that people, even like looking at something on a screen that they think is desirable or interesting, and the motor neurons in the brain light up. Listen, buddy, if you take 10 steps that way and jump into the computer screen, you can grab that slice of pie. That's just how we're designed, and it's wonderful. Us and all animals that have to survive on this ball of dirt orbiting a hydrogen star, that's our natural tendency. We have a tendency to cling, to grasp, to hanker after what we find desirable. And then secondarily, with this wonderful bug / feature of human awareness, there's this cognitive fusion that happens where maybe not you, but me, when I see something I like, I imagine a future together with that latte. I imagine how it will taste. And I'm having this whole thing where I've the word that the Buddha uses, bhavana, like taken birth. I have taken birth as Franz, who holds this latte and I'm drinking it, it's delicious, and it never runs out. That's an important one for me. I get to like 2/3 down of my bowl of ice cream or latte and I'm like, oh, God damn it. It's like every sip is taking me closer to the end of this pleasurable experience. Cognitive fusion. And then someone tries to take my latte and I'm like, how dare you? Like I've fused on some level. My identity is expressed in, embodied by, and fused to this pleasurable experience. That's a natural thing that we all do. It's a big problem for us personally. Why? Because the things that are good for survival are terrible for happiness. Imagine going through your life constantly being repelled by things you don't like and hankering after things you do like. Oh wait, you don't have to imagine, that's how we all live our lives. So the control method is brilliant in that the Buddha and teachers after him lay out, oh my God, this thing, this concentration, this way of calming yourself by following the breath, it's so great, it's going to feel so good, and luckily it does. And so our minds are like, oh, yeah. And that's why I'm always telling people, can you find the pleasure in this? Like take a big deep breath and see if it doesn't feel good. Follow that energy, follow that feeling through your body. The pleasure of release. It actually feels really good to let go, to gather the mind, the pleasure of bringing the mind to ground, of coming together. So, this is an interesting kind of two-step that the Buddha does, where he's using our natural tendency to grasp at, to be drawn to things that we like. Be like, okay, great. Doesn't that feel good to get concentrated and collected and gathered? Great, do that. Okay, that's a strategy. 2, just briefly, I wanted to mention the Merriam-Webster dictionary glosses attention as the ability to apply attention to a chosen object. They use the definition of the word in the definition. Maybe we're talking about something a little slippery here, hard to get a grasp on. But you know what attention is. You do it all the time. You pay attention to something, which I think is a very helpful thing to remember. The word pay is significant here, because as the Buddha and teachers after him and modern neuroscience says, attention is a finite resource. In the vast majority of us, it's underdeveloped. The vast majority of us have trouble paying attention to whatever thing it is that we need to pay attention to for the length of time we need to pay attention to it. And maybe you're different, but that's me to a T. So I'm very grateful for modern neuroscience and psychology and psychiatry for identifying ADHD, because that diagnosis, I'm a card-carrying diagnosed member of the ADHD community, squirrel, and it explains me to a T, and I'm grateful for having a thing on a piece of paper that I'm like, oh my God, that's me. But truly speaking, the Buddha's diagnosis of humanity at large is ADHD. Like, the vast majority, very few of us have the amount of attention we really would like to have, even just in daily life. And the Buddha says something really interesting and provocative, which is, not only are the vast majority of us lacking the amount, strength, clarity, stamina of attention that we really could use to live a flourishing, just ordinary life. But if we were able to truly develop our attention, we find that actually we can develop it much further than we might even think is possible. And if we develop further and further and further enough, we'll start to notice some really interesting things about being human. For instance, everything's constantly changing. But you wouldn't know that unless you were paying attention long enough. It's one thing to be like, yeah, everything's always changing. I heard that on Reading Rainbow one time, or in science class. Totally, I get it. But to actually watch something change, it's a different experience. To actually perceive it in real time, shifting. Like looking at a cloud, if you've ever cloud gazed, just looking at the sky and watching the clouds unravel and shift and change. It's really beautiful and really, in some way, stirring and calming simultaneously. And how much more so the feelings and thoughts that we have, especially some of the more rigid ones, like I'm a bad person, or I'm a this, or I'm a that, or we have these really powerful feelings that seem to hold on and hold on and hold on. That was it. And how many of us are driven, pursued, haunted by these wounds, these moods, these feelings? There are people all over the world being killed in wars. Why? Feelings. This country wants what I have, that country wants what I have, that person's different from me, this person. The world is made of feelings. So, the old man is like, hey, there's something really interesting. And there's other insights. His primary 3 insights, anicca, anatta, dukkha. Everything's constantly changing. There's no fixed, stable self to anything. Not you, not anyone, not anything. And dukkha. We have a tendency to grasp onto things thinking that they will be forever pleasurable in the same way. But the things are always changing, and I'm always changing. So that's a losing proposition. These are the three primary insights that the Buddha had that form the core of his kind of understanding of, wow, there's something profound about being human. We can realize these three things, and once we do, we are free from our, like, the vast majority of our human suffering that we create. Okay. And just briefly, I'm taking too long on this, but do you know what the entire media, social media, and iPhone and app industry runs on? What it feeds on, what it competes for? Attention. Clicks. And I'm not even joking. Like, apps are designed so that you have to engage with them more and more and more so they can sell ads. So they can show by their metric how often their users are using them. This is like, we are being farmed for our attention by these companies. This is my phone. I use it all the time. I'm constantly messing about on it. If you know me, my bosses are always seeing me from around the corner going. So, me too. But it's an interesting thing to consider that the Buddhist critique of humans being attention depleted, attention deficit, 2,600 years ago, I don't know what's going on with this, is there was no iPhones back then. Imagine how much worse it is now. There's a little hut somewhere with a plot of land next to it that I grow carrots and beets on, and I don't have to wear headsets. Okay. Anyway, so, huh? Oh, you get it? For real. Okay. So, anyway, it's just interesting to me that, like, so much of our society runs on our attention, feeds off of it, competes for it. Attention and challenge. 3, timetable and rewards. It's a gradual training to train the attention. It takes a long time. It's an underdeveloped muscle, and if you've ever had to come back from an injury with a muscle that was atrophied, or an injury, a part of your body that you needed to be gentle with but needed to work on, and you go to physical therapy and they're like, hi, do this thing 100 times, or whatever it is, and it's so hard, and it's just such a fine movement because you don't want to overstress or re-injure that muscle. Attention is a very fine, very soft, finite. It's a gradual process. Progress is measured long-term by small increases in the ability to attend exclusively to a specific thing, in this case, the breath. Clarity. I know I'm breathing, but what is the depth of my experience of watching, of being present to the experience of this breath? Stamina. How long can I do it? How long can I attend to the experience of my breath flowing in and flowing out? And then strength. How much energy and vigor can I bring to it before I kind of make it all scattery and use too much energy? Now I'm struggling and over-efforting. These ways of cultivating these skill sets, these experiences build and consolidate over time. And in the short term, luckily, there's many small, relaxing, and pleasurable experiences along the way. And then the culmination, the Buddha was a huge fan of the breath as the object of meditation. And of course, the Buddha's idea of control is very soft. And he talks about it in a lot of different metaphors, a lot of different similes. And it's less like this, and more like, he talks about the way a mother tends to her baby or her child. And it's just light touches, good, 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 good. Just returning again and again, bringing the mind back, good, good. That kind of attention. Very soft. You don't need to grab the child every time you want to check. Just sleeping, great. Playing, great. Hungry, got you. Just gentle, soft touches. And then the culmination of this path, this practice, this control model, the Buddha talks about kaya gata sati, this mindfulness established in the body, or mindfulness of breath. And he waxes, he's obviously a huge fan. He says things like, "This is the direct way, O monks, for the cessation of sorrow, for the destruction of negativity, for the attainment of nibbana, and the release of all suffering." It's a big, big ad campaign. Like, okay, buddy. But, as he says, ehipasiko, try it. Let me know. See how it works for you. And even in the short term, I don't think there's anyone on the planet who, if they don't practice a little bit of this, mindfulness of the breath, concentration on breath, won't receive some benefit, even if it's just in that one moment, maybe a couple seconds every time they sit. They get to come to rest, and you don't have to judge or critique or prefer or other or plan or remember or control. Okay? All right. So again, you just come home. That's the first thing. You're like, okay. And I love the way the Buddha often talks about practice. He says, there's a couple places where he says, one should come to practice like a laborer whose duties are finished, like one who has laid down their burden, like you're done. So it's not like, oh boy, time to go meditate. It's the opposite. It's like, I'm setting everything down and I'm going to go home and take my shoes off and close the door and get in my comfy chair. So, I'm going to read through these steps and in roughly real time. And luckily for all of us, the sound of my voice is just a sound in the room like anything. So if you have a different practice you want to do, great. Or if you are on a different timetable, check in and check out. So, to begin with, establish the body in a comfortable posture with the back straight and the limbs at rest. Whatever that means for you. And everyone's body is so different. And the way my primary teacher says, he says, sit in such a way that your skeleton is doing the heavy lifting. Let the bones do the work. And that can mean different things for different people. Your eyes can be closed or open in a soft, vacant, unfocused gaze. Feel the body settle in the posture. And even take a couple seconds and adjust. Like roll your shoulders, see if you're balanced front to back, side to side. Even just moving and knowing that you're moving can be a profound kind of pre-meditative meditation. I invite you to take 3 deep, soothing breaths. And see if you can feel pleasant sensations in your body. And then let the breath be exactly how it wants to be. And now, gather the attention on the sensations of your breath. And that can be anywhere at all along the chain of breath. Top of the lip, tip of the nose, sinuses, ribs, belly. And of course, all the other sensations are happening in the body, sounds in the ears, touch, everything else. But the breath is coming to the foreground. It's like we're at a party and we're having the most amazing conversation ever. And we can hear every word. And the plates are still clinking and the people are still laughing and the music is still playing. And the breath is that conversation. And start to notice if you can be present for an entire in-breath. And then see if you can extend that and be present for one whole cycle of in-breath and out-breath. And then at the end of the next out-breath, as the out-breath draws to a close, I invite you to mentally count 1. And at the end of the next out-breath, count 2. And just keep counting breaths at the end of the out-breath all the way up to 8. And then start over. I'm going to ring the bell and be quiet and leave you in the tender mercy of your body and breath. And when we get lost, when we get carried away, distracted, that's fine. Just start again. Or just bring your mind back to the last number you remember and keep going. last moment before the bell rings, I invite you to let go. Let go of counting, let go of breath.